Good morning, and please be seated. Good. Matthew's gospel this morning invites us to consider our vocation, which is to imitate, to follow Jesus, responding to the needs of the people by teaching, by proclaiming the good news, and by healing. We are caretakers, custodians, stewards, cultivators, guardians, mentors, but not all at once. We need to know what the concrete circumstances are in order to choose the proper response. Does the situation call for teaching, proclaiming, or healing? And how do we know? Partly, we know by the instructions of Scripture how to advance the kingdom. Partly, we know through the artistry of our culture, through literature and poetry and visual arts, which reveal our cherished values and that guide our actions. And partly, we are guided by reports of what's happening and what needs our attention. But I wonder, additionally, do our assumptions about human nature matter? Do our predictions about what's the likely outcome matter as we decide how to respond concretely with love and grace to those in need? Let me offer two examples. Both of the following stories take place on a deserted island somewhere in the Pacific. In the first, a plane has gone down. The only survivors are some British schoolboys who can't believe their good fortune. Nothing but speech and water and no grown-ups anywhere. On the very first day, the boys initiate a democracy of sorts. One boy, Ralph, is appointed to be the group leader. Athletic, charming, handsome. He's the golden boy of the bunch. Ralph declares the goals of their time ahead. Have fun, survive, and seek to be rescued by making smoke signals for passing ships. The plan to have fun goes really well. But watching and being ready to send smoke signals seems like a lot of trouble, and few want to interrupt their partying to do so. One of the boys develops a passion for hunting pigs, and he leads an expedition to hunt for wild boar, which all the boys eagerly join in, including the boys who were meant to tend the signal fire, which causes them to miss one of the rare chances to be rescued. Over time, the boys grow more reckless and wild. They develop an overpowering urge to be violent, pinching and biting. One boy, whom they call Piggy, because he is pudgy, has asthma, and wears glasses, remains the voice of reason, which nobody heeds. Weeks pass. 3 of the boys die tragically. Then one day, a British naval ship spies the island, and an officer comes ashore. The island is now a smoldering wasteland, the result of a fire set by one tribe of boys to harm another tribe. I should have thought, declares the British officer, that a pack of British boys would have been able to put up a better show than this. In June 1965, 6 boys, pupils at St. Andrew's Episcopal Boarding School in the Polynesian archipelago nation of Tonga, were bored. They longed for adventure, for a life at sea instead of school. They decided to escape to Fiji, 500 miles away. None of them had a boat, nor knew how to sail. But undaunted, they stole or borrowed a boat, at which they provisioned with 2 sacks of bananas, a few coconuts, and a small gas burner. No compass, no map, no water. They set sail under fair skies and a mild breeze. But as evening turned to night, all the boys fell asleep, waking a few hours later to water crashing, foaming, and waves foaming and cresting all around them. Unseasoned sailors, they hoisted the sail, which was immediately sheared by the winds. And then the rudder broke, leaving them adrift for the next 8 days. No food, no water. They managed to collect some rainwater, which they shared very judiciously. Each boy was allowed 1 sip in the morning and 1 sip in the evening. They tried boiling seawater using the gas stove, but it tipped over. On the 8th day, they spied a miracle. A small, hulking mass of rock jutting up more than 1,000 feet out of the ocean. Not a tropical paradise with gentle palm trees and sandy beaches, but salvation nonetheless. After a prayer of thanks for the rescue, they, with great difficulty, as they were so weak from their ordeal, scaled the rock oasis. And once all together again, they said a prayer, sought to quench their fierce thirst with the blood of seabirds, and exhausted, they slept. In the morning, they set to work creating a community. Agreeing to work in teams of 2, they set up a strict roster for garden, kitchen, and guard duty. They set up a small commune, hollowing out a tree trunk to catch rainwater, fashioning a gymnasium with weights, a badminton court, chicken pens, and a permanent fire. When the inevitable quarrels broke out, the opponents were given and obeyed a strict timeout, each walking a different part of the island until they calmed down and could return to apologize. That's how they remained friends throughout the 16 months they were castaways. To keep their spirits up, they began and ended every day with prayer and music. One of the boys fashioned a steel guitar from driftwood, 1/2 of a coconut shell, and 6 steel wires salvaged from the wrecked boat. They were finally rescued September 11th, 1966. So which of these stories is true? As in, happened in real life and provides an accurate description of human nature. Perhaps you recognize the first as a synopsis of Lord of the Rings, the classic, Lord of the Flies, gosh. I don't even know Lord of the Rings, I don't know why I said that. Oh well. The classic dystopian novel about events and acts that never occurred. The novel sold over 10 million copies and has been a 9th and 10th grade standard. Do people still read this in school?
Yes.
Do you guys read that anymore? No. Good. A standard, along with To Kill a Mockingbird and The Great Gatsby. Now, that, having been so popular for so many years, has led to or affirmed a very negative view of human nature: selfish, self-centered, highly competitive, and aggressive. The second story is true. It did happen, and shows that we are, in fact, more likely to cooperate, to share, and to help. Those are the legitimate background assumptions of our vocation. We are created to be essentially, innately, naturally good. And so our vocation is to support those qualities, to protect, promote, forgive, uphold, praise. But how exactly? To answer that requires discernment, for we are told many things about particular people, groups, programs, and outcomes. And the ways in which each event is described leads us to make certain judgments about what ought to be done, who deserves what. And there are seemingly no particularly reliable, trustworthy accounts, which I think has led to a pervasive sense of dispiritedness, bleakness, maybe even cynicism. So how do we conceptualize our vocation now? Put our gifts to use now. I think we need to motivate hope and courage by revitalizing solidarity, our deeply held conviction that we belong to one another. We are not isolated atoms. We are not alone. We are not sunk. We are not naturally mean or cruel or greedy or power-hungry jerks. We're not. We are kind and generous, cooperative and caring. We can be a little pessimistic, finding the bad news more reliable than the good. So we need to recognize and acknowledge acts, qualities, characteristics that we consider valuable, ordinary, daily contributions to the common good. We need to change negative assumptions and expectations. We need to focus our energy on compliments, on praising and finding and holding on to the good around us. We need to see and acknowledge the grace in our lives and thereby be more graceful and practiced at experiencing our people of Godness. We need to recall and be reminded that the story of the shipwrecked boys in Polynesia is a far more trustworthy picture of who we are than is given in Lord of the Flies. We need to pay attention to the example set by the Scouts as they seek to live out the best of humanity. Our vocation is to care today, now, this season of Epiphany, which means we build up God's family by recognizing and affirming and esteeming and regarding out loud the good, the decent, the kind, the generous, cooperative, sacrificial, brave, bold acts we see every day. And in so doing, we affirm God's goodness and we discover or recover the ego strength we need to be disciples, to respond when called, to hope, and to refuse despair. Thanks be to God.